Hello, I'm David Hunt. I'm a broadcaster and man about town in this wonderful town of Melbourne. And sitting next to me is...
Gordon Wilson, and I'm a broadcaster as well. Not a man about town, I'm afraid, because I've got a few years on you.
Right. Now listen, Gordon, we're going to talk about your extraordinary life. You know, as a man of 23 and all the stuff that you've achieved already, to the extent, well, you're supposed to have laughed at that moment.
Well, I'll just raise the eyebrows. It's enough.
But right this very moment, you are the poster boy. Around Melbourne is posters of you. Because, you know, like just the other day was the Coming Back Out Ball, and you were used as one of the main people they used in it. You know, how exciting is that? The fact that, you know, like a man of your age, of 23, that you've been used in that capacity.
Well, they asked me if they could do it, and there was quite a few people who had photographs taken, of course. And then they sent me the 2 photographs that they were going to use and said, did I approve? And I just said, well, what have I got to say? Yes, you can use whatever you want.
Yep.
At my age, you don't care.
Yeah.
They can do anything, they can say anything, because you're almost impervious to anything because you've heard it all before.
It was out the front of Melbourne Town Hall.
I believe
a poster of you. And you're in retirement villages. You were actually saying that like your partner had seen them at the retirement village that he was. Incredible. We'll get there eventually, but let's start back in the beginning. When did you realise that you are a homosexual, and did you even know what a homosexual was?
Well, I was 6 or 7, and I can remember...
That's amazing.
What, that I was 6 and 7?
No, that you thought then.
Yeah, and we were playing in the yard at a house in Leederville, which is a suburb in Perth, and they were talking about, the girls was talking about getting married and da-da-da-da-da, like kids do, you know. And I said, well, look, I can tell you right now, I will never, ever be married. Because I knew then that I was different to the others. I just had this feeling that I didn't fit in with the total norm.
Yep.
And, so it was right back then.
6 years of age.
Yeah.
What about how was school? Were you picked on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when I went to school, I was picked on, but I decided I wasn't going to be picked on.
Or bullied.
Or bullied, so I fought back. I attacked the bullies.
And what happened?
Oh, they ran like hell, you know, because bullies are cowards. It really, you know, if you stand up to them, they'll run.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So after that, they left me alone.
I believe, was it when you were about 13, 14, I could be wrong here, that you went to your parents and said, hey, Mum and Dad, I want to go to ballet.
That's right, yes.
What did they say?
Well, in those days you sort of had, I approached Mum first, and I said, Mum, I want to go off to ballet school and learn to be a dancer, because I loved the great musical theatre of that you saw in the films. I loved dancing. I loved Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Gene Kelly.
Oh, you were so gay.
All those people, you know. And I just thought, I want to do that, you know.
Yep.
So I said to my mother, Mum, can I go off and learn to do ballet? Go to ballet school and learn to be a ballet dancer. Oh, you better go and ask your father. So I went off and asked Dad. I said, Dad, I want to go off and learn to be a ballet dancer, because I love dancing and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And he said, but you realise people will call you a sissy. And I said, I am, so what? You know, and he just said, oh, well, all right, off you go.
So that was you coming out to your
family,
even in that era. So, then there was growing up. When you were about 22, or you were 22, you moved to Melbourne.
That's right.
Why?
Well, I'd come over to Melbourne in the year previously when I was 21. My mother inherited my grandfather's house, which he died intestate. So for her to have control of it, she had to get her 2 brothers' signatures on a bit of paper to say that it was hers.
Yep.
So I came over to Sydney on the TSMV Manura, which was a coastal ship that did the coastal runs. And I found my uncle in Sydney after a bit of trial and tribulation. He signed the paper, and I thought, well, while I'm here, I might as well go up and find my other uncle up in Cairns. So I went up to Cairns as well and
found
him and stayed with him at Holloway's Beach. On the beach.
Yep, I know that beach.
You know that beach, but it's very well built up these days. It costs you a fortune to live there. Yeah. But I lived in a caravan right on the beach.
Right, okay. And so on your way back, you stopped in Melbourne?
No, I stopped in Melbourne before I went.
Oh,
We stopped in Adelaide first, where I fell down the stairs at Myers, and then I came on to Melbourne. And when I got to Melbourne, I walked up Flinders Street, up Spring Street, down Little Lonsdale Street, into Spencer Street, back onto the boat, and thought, I'm coming back to live here. I love it.
Wow. So that was the late 50s and 58. And so what was gay Melbourne like, which you wouldn't have called it gay in those days? That word wasn't really used within
camp
that context.
society in those days.
So what was life like as a gay person?
Well, I lived with a chap who I used to work with his sister. We lived in St Kilda Road, just opposite the Shrine. And we finished up being partners for 17 and a half years.
Oh.
And we just gradually eased ourselves in. I finished up getting a job in Paran at a hotel. I worked in a hotel in Paran for about 12 months. And I don't know how it came about that we got involved with the gay scene. Something happened. I can't tell you what it was. I don't remember.
So of course, back in that era, like there were it was illegal.
Yeah, we were criminals, but you still had bars where you could meet everybody.
Yeah, but they weren't official gay bars per se, were they?
Oh, try the Woolshed Bar at the Australia, honey. I tell you what, that was as gay as all get out.
Right, and everyone would meet there, but officially it wasn't.
Everybody that drank there was gay, basically. And then you'd go there because it was 6 o'clock closing. You would go there on Saturday afternoon at 5 o'clock for the witching hour. And you'd have a drink and you'd see if anybody was having a party that night. And if they weren't having a party at the Woolshed, you'd go round the corner to the London, which was over Collins Street, just round the corner, and stay there and see if you could find a party. And this is what you did. And there was always a party somewhere.
There was always a party.
Always party.
Now, then, as time went on, and obviously you had a working life here in Melbourne, but you got very involved with the community.
Oh, yeah.
So what organisations did you volunteer with?
Well, the first one I worked with the Boilers, and they're still going. We used to meet on one Friday night, the last, I forget which, I think it was the last Friday of the month, at the Cricketers Bar at the Windsor.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and we'd stand up there and have drinks and all the rest of it.
But what was that?
They raised money for guide dogs.
Oh, okay.
At the time. And then they would go off one other night to one of the members' houses. Yep. And they would have a drinks and raffles and stuff and raise money for that there.
Brilliant. That's all we've got time for at this moment. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned because this man has got so many other wonderful stories to tell us.